Have you ever been misunderstood? Have you ever misunderstood something that someone was saying to you and you got it wrong? It happens more often than we want to know, doesn't it? And sometimes it's because we don't hear very well. Sometimes it's because we're thinking about something else and are distracted. Sometimes it happens in all kinds of places. But tonight, we need to talk about hearing God's messages without misunderstanding. Hearing God's messages clearly and getting the word. That beautiful Psalm 27 talks about the phrase, "My heart speaks your message, O God." God gives a message. He says, "Seek my face." And the answer, "My heart speaks your message, O God. I will seek your face." It's not to be misunderstood. It's something clear. It's something open. It's something we need to pay attention to. So the first thing I want to talk about tonight is God's message to us. His message is, seek my face. Look for me. Put your eyes in my direction. Put your life in my direction. It's a way of saying, follow and listen and be attentive to the things that God speaks to us. Now, a lot of times in our daily life, we go along not even thinking that much about what God is doing or anything like that. It's just simply daily life. But I know that from personal experience, that anytime something seems to go wrong, my heart turns quickly to God. There are prayers. "Oh, I can't find the car keys. Please, God, help me find the car keys." Now, there are all kinds of things, from little to enormous, that cause our attention. In the day of trouble, says the psalm, we turn to the Lord. When the times are darkest, you can actually see the stars. When the light is glowing, you can't see those points of light that God has put ahead for us to see. God will hide me in his sanctuary, says the psalm. Do you know what that sanctuary is all about? In Old Testament times, when there was not an easy legal system or a way of justice, and people acted out of revenge for any injustice that they perceived in their families. If someone seemed to hurt someone else, the rest of the family would say, "We're going to get what's coming to you." And they would often execute some kind of justice that they deemed was appropriate, without any, what we would call, due process. And sometimes, people who were terribly innocent were caused great harm by people who thought they were guilty. So in the church times of the Old Testament, there were sanctuary places. They were places of worship. And if a person was accused of doing something wrong, they had the possibility of going to this sanctuary place, the place of worship, put their hands on the horns of the altar where the sacrifices were made, be in that place of sanctuary, and in that place, they were safe. They were safe to be heard so that their cause could be determined by the priests in that sanctuary and figure out guilt, innocence, punishment, or not. It was a place where the innocent would be spared. Now, we have times when sanctuary is needed in our own lives. Sometimes we've been misunderstood and we get battered with words or with other thoughts. We need a place of safety. Sometimes people in our whole political system need places of sanctuary from danger and from disease, all kinds of things that threaten death. We run to a place of safety, and it's in a place where God is. God raises us up high on a rock so that all of the sinking sand, as the song says, and all of the things that go wrong are not a problem. And he lifts us up above our enemies. God is the one that is the source of our salvation, the redeeming of our guilt. God is the one who brings us to new life. And so Jesus comes into this picture and talks to people and says, the kingdom of heaven is near. And if you want to see more of that, seek my face. Come, follow me. I'll give you a new occupation. You can search for people. You can have a new vocation. It will color everything in your life. Where there was darkness, light. And Jesus cured diseases, and he healed sicknesses, and he proclaimed the good news, and he taught others to listen to God's voice and to seek his face. Now there's an interesting story in a book called White Fang that was written by John London. John London was a wonderful storyteller, especially about animals. White Fang was part dog, part wolf. And White Fang, in his wild side, loved chickens. Once he got into a chicken hen house, and he killed over 50 chickens in one time. Naturally, the farmers who had the chickens labeled that dog a chicken killer and was ready to kill the dog, because you never can cure one of them. Once they've got that chicken inside of them, they'll never be better again. But the owner of this dog, White Fang, Master Wheaton Scott, took his dog aside. He took White Fang into nothing less than a chicken house. And master and dog stood together. Now White Fang is ready on impulse to go looking and saying, chickens, 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 this is wonderful. They're walking around and they're in a pen and they can't get away from me. You can see this on the dog's face. And the master says, stay. And White Fang listens to the master's voice and sits at his side. Again, the dog gets pretty nervous and starts thinking, look at all those chickens, look at all those chickens. And he's ready to take off. And again, the master's voice comes. And every time the dog is ready to pounce, the master says, stop, stay. After quite a long time, several hours, the dog simply settled down for a nap right at his master's feet. He was no longer interested in the chickens. He simply stayed by his master. Now later on, when the farmer whose chickens White Fang had consumed came and said, that dog can't be cured of all these chicken things, and he must be destroyed. The owner said, let's give him a test. And so they put White Fang into a hen house with lots of chickens. And the master walked away. The dog could no longer see his master. His master's voice was no longer there. What do you suppose he did? Well, he sat down, finally put his head on his paws, and took a nap while all of the chickens were wandering around. A little bit later on, he got up and was thirsty and took some water from the trough in the pen, and then went around and started looking for his master and sat down again. After a couple of hours, he came and was released from the pen, not having touched a single chicken. how he had listened and he had bent his will to the Master's voice. He knew the Master's face. He changed his own behavior to match what the Master wanted. That's the message that God is giving us when he says, seek my face. Bend your will to his. Listen to his voice. See where he's leading you. Be aware of how you can change so that in the midst of all the things that are impulse for us, all of the things that we're so prone to do and to go run headlong into disaster, we can change. We can leave the past behind, and we can be new people. And so the rest of that voice says, my heart speaks your message, O God. That's our response back to God. God says, seek my face. And like White Fang, on the other side of the chicken says, yes, Lord, I seek your face. I hear your voice. I am with you. And like those people that Jesus called, Peter and Andrew and James and John and the others, they immediately left their nets and they followed him. And in our own lives, we do that too. We don't just leave our home. We leave our past behind that blocks us from being in full communion with God and seeing the glory and the brightness of his face and the joy and the power that comes in being in his presence and the joy in worship and the joy in being among his people. It's a good thing to be here. It's a good thing to be safe. And it is a place where God has promised to meet you and show you his face. And so we say, don't turn away in anger, Lord. Don't cast me away. There's only one thing that I want in my life, and that's to dwell in the house of the Lord forever. That means we become sanctuary. You know the song? It's a beautiful little one. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. So we come into this place. We experience the safety, the power, the sanctuary of his face. And we take that with us out into the world. And God teaches us how to fish. And we become light. And we become the points of encouragement and hope for others who need to seek God's face. As we prepare in this congregation for another year of ministry, take a look at those annual reports. See what has happened during the past year. Make the dreams about what is yet to come. Sometime during this year, we will be calling a new pastor. We will have a chance to begin this process of vision and what we are called to be about together, not just to see what happens here, but to see what the here can do to make the world a better and different place. There's an old Chinese proverb that says, if your vision is for a year, plant corn. If your vision is for 10 years, plant trees. And if your vision is for a lifetime, plant people. These are days when our congregation needs to look forward. What kind of church are we going to be in the 21st century? What kind of people are we going to plant and raise up here? And what kind of difference do we make in a year, in 10 years, and in a lifetime? And so we begin to live and act differently. We seek his face, and we say, Lord, I get it. I hear it without misunderstanding. and I seek your face, and I will live it every day. It's a little bit like the people who were gathering in a town with a special church service because of the drought. The farmers were in need, the townspeople in need, and there was a special church service where everyone came to pray for rain. They knew they were in trouble, and they came to a place to seek God, to seek his face, and to seek new life. Please, God, send rain. And as the pastor was ready to begin the service and seeing all of the people who had gathered, he suddenly got a smile on his face as he looked at a little girl who was sitting in the front pew. And she sat expectantly, different from almost everyone else who were worried and perplexed and feeling down, hoping and wishing that God would send the rain. And then there was this little girl who got the message, who saw God's face. Because this little girl was sitting on the edge of the pew, and she had brought her red umbrella. She expected results. That's what it means. We get the message. We carry our umbrellas. We know that God's will and his timing will be all in his hands. We listen for that voice, and we go out into the world, and we seek his face. And we let others see that face in us. In Jesus' name, amen. Dear Lord, thank you for hearing, for seeing, for sanctuary. Keep us always in your grace.